What's up guys, it's Benjamin Turbo here back again with another video. Today we are going to take a look at Batman Comics chronological reading order. And as you all know, Batman has been a character that has been publishing for over 100 years. And DC Comics has rebooted their universe several times already. And with all of these reboots, it is pretty confusing to get into reading these awesome characters with such rich histories. And that is why today we are going to take a look at Batman, one of the most famous comic book characters ever, besides the Spider-Man and Superman, of course. So let's get into the video. First up, it's Gotham City, Year 1 by Tom King. This story takes place several years before Batman is born, and it tells us how Gotham City became what it is today, a cesspool of crime, was once a utopia with no crime. So yeah, you should definitely check this out if you want to get more familiarized with what Gotham City was before Batman. Next up, it's Batman the Knight by Chip Zdarsky. It tells the story of Batman before becoming Batman and how he trained with different individuals that were the best in their own fields and how he mastered all of their techniques in order to become Batman. And it's really interesting story. You should definitely check this out before checking out Batman Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. This story is the most definitive story of Batman, and any Batman fan or anyone who wants to become a fan should definitely read this one. This is such a great story. The art is amazing. Everything is so great in this one. Next up, it's Legends of the Dark Knight by Matt Wagner. So you should definitely check this out because all of the stories in this collection are year one stories of Batman and how Two-Face become Two-Face. You know, Harvey Dent, how he became who he is today. So you should definitely check this out if you want to get to know this character's comic origin. Next up, it's Batman Prey. This is one of those stories that is so good, especially the art. The art is so crisp. It is written by Doug Mensch, and it tells the story of Batman's second meeting with Professor Strange. Next up, it's Batman, the Man Who Laughs. This is the story of Batman's first meeting with the Joker, and some people may say that it takes place after Batman Year 1. While I might agree on that, but I think that Batman had to take his time in order to find the Joker, you know, find the clues leading up to Joker. That is why those previous stories happened first rather than this one happening directly after Batman Year 1. That is why this is here. Next up, Batman Gothic. Batman Gothic is a great story. It's written by Grant Morrison, you know, the one of the most definitive Batman writers, and it's such a great story. The art is very amazing. Next up, it's Batman Venom. Batman Venom is one of the most crucial and definitive Batman stories to read because Batman Venom introduces us to the venom substance which Batman begins to use, increasing his strength tenfold each time he uses it. Batman essentially becomes addicted to this substance, and this substance plays such a huge role in Batman's future stories. So you should definitely check this out. This is written by Dennis O'Neil, and I definitely recommend this one. Next up, it's Batman Snow. Batman Snow is the comic origin of Mr. Freeze and his first meeting with Batman. But I believe that if you want to uh, watch an origin story for Mr. Freeze, you should definitely watch Batman the Animated Series first to fully enjoy this one. Next up, it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Trinity by Matt Wagner. This is the first meeting of these three heroes, and it is such an essential story to all of Batman's history. Next up, it's Batman, Haunted Night. It's a collection of stories. All of these stories take place on Halloween in different years of Batman's career. And each of these stories take place on the night of Halloween from year 2 to 4, I believe. So so good to take a look at what the future holds for Batman, and it is written by Jeff Loeb and is drawn by the late Tim Sale, which I absolutely love. The art is amazing. You should definitely check this one out. Next up, it's Batman The Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. This is such a good story. It is a detective story, and in all aspects, it can be one of the top 10 Batman comics of all time. You should definitely check this one out. This takes place in the year one on the night of Halloween. Next up, it's Batman Dark Victory. This is the sequel to Batman Long Halloween, and it again tells the story of Batman facing the consequences of the Long Halloween, and you should read it yourself to find out what's going on. I don't want to spoil it too much. Next up, it's Batman The Long Halloween Catwoman When in Rome. This story takes place after the events of Dark Victory. It continues Catwoman's story arc and concludes it. Catwoman has become such a major character in Batman's stories. That is why you should definitely check this out to understand more about the character and her relationships outside of Batman's world. Next up, it's Batman One Dark Knight. This is a DC Black Label comic, but it can be considered in continuity if you like. I consider this one in continuity because Batman in this one faces such a great villain that is on par with Electro in Spider-Man comics. And what this story essentially tells us what would happen if Batman didn't have his gadgets. All of the electricity in Gotham has been cut off, and Batman needs to stop this villain in order to get everything back on track. This is written and drawn by Jock, and it is very good. You should definitely check this one out. Next up is Batman Killing Time by Tom King. This story has been written in recent years, but takes place in Batman's past, right here, and it is a good story with underrated villains, underused villains such as Riddler and Killer Croc. Next up, it's Batman Year 2. Batman Year 2 is such an underrated comic, and it is one of the enjoyable Batman comics that has been written in the 80s or 90s, I believe. Although some might deem this one as non-canon, I believe with the most recent reboots in DC Comics, this story can be deemed as canon. That is why it is here. And even if it was non-canon, I would actually recommend reading this one. Next up, Batman, Kings of Fear. This is by Scott Peterson and Kelly Jones. This is a great story, more on the fun side of things, and it features all of his villains. So yeah, I believe that when all of his villains come together, you are in for a great ride. So you should definitely check this one out. Next up, it's Batman: The Gauntlet by Bruce Campbell. Next up, it's Robin Year One by Chuck Dixon, and it tells us the story, the origin story of Robin and what he does in the first year of his career as Batman's sidekick. Next up, it's Batgirl Year One. Uh, it's written by Chuck Dixon. It tells the story of Batgirl's Year One, the adventures that she must go through and face, and the threats that she faces by being the other sidekick of Batman. Next up, it's Batman Ego and Other Tales. It is written by Darwin Cook. Rest in peace, Darwin Cook. This is very amazing comic. Is very enjoyable. I definitely love comics that Darwin Cook has written. The art is very amazing, so you should definitely check this one out. Next up, it's Batman, Tales of the Demon. This is by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, and I believe this is one of the most essential comics of Batman. In this one, you have Batman faces Ra's al Ghul. He has to come face to face again with his fears, and of course, Ra's daughter Talia al Ghul is also in this one, and some things happen that affect all of DC continuity forever and change it and shape it for years to come. Next up, it's Nightwing Year One. So Nightwing Year One is again by Chuck Dixon. This tells the story of how Dick Grayson became Nightwing and his first year as Nightwing. And it is such an enjoyable story. You should definitely check this one out if you are a fan of Nightwing. Next up, it's Batman, The Killing Joke by Alan Moore. And this story is so good. This essentially tells us how Joker became Joker. In this story, Joker tells us that one bad day can cause you to go insane, and he wants to prove it to Batman and Barbara Gordon and Jim Gordon, and so many horrible things happen to them in this story, and I absolutely love this one, especially because the art is also really good, especially with the new coloring. It just feels so modern. Next up, it's Batman. Second chances. In this story, Batman comes face to face with a boy who's trying to steal his tires, the tires to his Batmobile, and this boy is none other than Jason Todd. Jason Todd, who later becomes Red Hood, and so many things happen to him. So you should definitely check this one out. This is such an essential comic for the character. And in this story, he becomes his new Robin, and so many things are yet to come for it. Next up, it's Batman, the Caped Crusader by Jim Starlin and Jim Aparo. Yes, this art is so gorgeous. Although these stories have been written before the Crisis events, they are still canon to the post-Crisis timeline, so you should definitely check out Batman Caped Crusader. All of the volumes are amazing, and I absolutely love this one. Next up, it's Batman, A Death in the Family. In this story, as you all can see, Jason Todd dies, and Batman is left devastated and must come face to face with his regrets. This is such a heartbreaking story and one of the most essential comics that you should definitely check out if you want to get to know Batman's side and how his mind works. This is one of the most essential comics. Next up, it's Batman Noel, and this is a story, although some might say that it is non-canon, it can be considered canon. This is one of the best stories. This is a mix of Christmas Carol and Batman comic. So yeah, this story is the story of Batman after the events of the deaths in family, and how he's still angry, and he's become more brutal, and he must come into terms with Jason Todd's loss. Next up, it's Batman, the Dark Knight Detective. Again, these stories are written pre-crisis, but still these are considered canon, and they are amazing stories. Again, they are written by Mike W. Barr and Alan Davis, so you should definitely check them out. Next up, it's Batman Cacophony by Kevin Smith, and again, this is a story that is a dark story of Batman. So yeah, this might be enjoyable to those who like dark stories. Next up, it's Batman the Widening Gyre, the sequel to Batman Cacophony by Kevin Smith. So yeah, again, Batman must face demonic beings and must face some magic users in this one. So yeah, this is so enjoyable. Next up is Batman Arkham Asylum by Grant Morrison. This is one of the best comics that has been written for Batman. The art is gorgeous. This is a DC Black Label book, but it is considered in canon, and the art is really gorgeous. It's like looking at an art museum. Next up, we have Batman, the Demon Trilogy. In this book, Batman must come face to face with Ra's al Ghul once more and settle it once and for all. And this is such a good comic. I definitely like this one. Ra's al Ghul is one of the best villains that Batman has, and yeah, I definitely appreciate this one. It's written by Mike W. Barr and Danny O'Neill. Next up, we have Batman, Shadow of the Bat. This is written by Alan Grant and drawn by Tim Sale, I believe. And these stories are so great. They are amazing, and you should definitely check it out. after Shadow of the Bat, you should check out Azrael, Fallen Angel. Azrael is a type of vigilante that operates in Gotham, and Batman comes face to face with this guy several times, and Batman does not approve of his ways. Next up, we have Batman, Prelude to Nightfall. Nightfall is such a great comic event, and Bane is such a good character, especially in his roster of villains. Bane has been one of the most challenging ones to Batman, and in this one, we get a prelude to the Nightfall event, which is one of the best Batman events of all time. Next up, we have Batman, Nightfall. In this comic, Bane breaks Batman's back, and it's such an iconic comic. The cover is iconic. Everything is good about this one. Next up, it's Batman, Night Quest. And after the events of Nightfall, uh, Bane, who used a lot of venom to become that powerful to break Batman's back, uh, succeeds in making Batman quit, and Batman must come into terms with it and must find a replacement for himself. So this is that story. Uh, he's on a quest to find a great replacement for himself. Next up is Batman Night Quest: The Search. Again, this continues the previous story. Next up, it's Batman Night Scent. Batman must come face to face with the replacement he found and fight him because of some things that has happened that I don't want to spoil, so you should definitely read it yourself. Next up, it's Batman Prodigal. And as you can see, Dick Grayson dons the cowl. Dick Grayson becomes the replacement after the previous replacement was deemed unworthy of the cowl. Next up, it's Batman Troika. Batman is back with a vengeance. So yeah, Batman returns and he wants to get revenge on Bane for breaking his back. Next up, it's Batman The Chalice by Chuck Dixon. This is sort of a short story of Batman, and it contains some Egyptian mythologies, and that is why I love this one. And if you are a fan of those things, you should definitely check this one out. This is a good comic. Next up, it's Batman Contagion. In this story, a plague is spread in Gotham City, and Batman must stop it, I believe, and some things happen. Next up, it's Batman Legacy by Chuck Dixon. This again continues Batman's story. While they were publishing Batman Legacy, uh, which was a 2-volume comic, they were writing one of the most essential Batman comics ever, Batman Cataclysm. This is the prelude to the epic saga, Batman No Man's Land, and it is amazing. And in this one, Gotham City is blown up. I don't know why, but it happens at the end of this story, and it somehow becomes ground zero for villainy, and everything is shaken. There are earthquakes and everything, and it's such a good story. Next up, it's Batman Road to No Man's Land. So this begins to set up the story for what it is to come. At this moment, you should read Batman Harley Quinn in order to get the essential Harley Quinn origin story, because Harley Quinn plays such a major role in Batman and No Man's Land, and she's such a major player in those comics. This is written by Paul Dini, the original creator of Harley Quinn. As you all know, Harley Quinn was created in Batman the Animated Series. Her first appearance was in that animated show. Next up, it's Batman No Man's Land. Yes, this is what I was talking about. This is such a great story arc. The art is really good, and I absolutely love this one. Next up, it's Batman Gotham Knights Transference. Next up, we have Batman Bruce Wayne Murderer. And in this one, Bruce Wayne is framed for murder. There is a follow-up to it. It is called Batman Bruce Wayne Fugitive. So he becomes a fugitive after being framed for a murder which he did not commit, because we all know Batman is no murderer. Next up, we have one of the best Gotham-related comics written, which is Gotham Central. This centers around Gotham City Police Department and the stories that happen in Gotham that we haven't seen before in Batman comics. Next up, we have one of the most essential Batman comics, Batman Hush. Batman Hush tells the story of Batman and how he's going through the relationship phase with Catwoman. Batman wants to get engaged with Catwoman in this one, and they come face to face with a new villain called Hush, and he knows Batman's true identity and everything. So yeah, this is such a good story. It's such a great detective story. You should definitely check this one out. It is drawn by Jim Lee, one of the best artists for Batman. Next up, Batman Broken City by Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso. Yeah, this is a good comic that, yes, this one is a good comic. Brian Azzarello is a great writer. Next up, it's Batman Death and the Maidens. It is written by Greg Rucka and drawn by Klaus Jensen. In this story, Ra's al Ghul is dying, and it is a very enjoyable story, especially for the fans of Ra's al Ghul. Next up, we have Batman War Games. In this story, Batman is stuck in between a gang war, and he must stop this at all costs. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting story premise to this one. Next up, we have Batman City of Crime. In this story, Batman must solve the murder of 6 girls and find a girl who was kidnapped, and it is a very good detective story, and I definitely recommend this one. Next up, we have Red Hood, The Lost Days. This story focuses on Red Hood and how Jason Todd survived the events of a death in the family. So yeah, this is definitely interesting. Next up, we have Batman Under the Red Hood. Batman Under the Red Hood focuses on the return of Red Hood and how he comes back for revenge, and how he has changed. You know, Jason Todd has changed a lot, and this is such a good story. Next up, Batman Two-Face Face to Face. This is written by James Robinson. It is a really good Two-Face story, so you should definitely check this one out. Next up, we have Batman and the Sun, one of my favorite Batman comics. In this one, Batman finds out that Talia al Ghul had a son with him that she hid from him, and now he must come face to face with his son. And his son, Damian Wayne, is such a major character, especially in recent years of comics. So you should definitely check this one out. It is such a character-defining and story-defining character, and it sets up such stories that are still being told in today's era of comics. Next up, we have Batman, The Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul by Grant Morrison. After the death of Ra's al Ghul, Grant Morrison wanted to bring back Ra's al Ghul, and it is a very good comic. Next up, Batman, Gotham After Midnight by Steve Niles. This story is about a mysterious creature that roams around at night. Batman must find the truth about it, and it is such an interesting story. Next up, we have Batman Heart of Hush. This is a pseudo sequel to Batman Hush, because recently there have been announcements of Batman Hush 2, and this is a definite must read for those who want to enjoy that story as well. So yeah, you should definitely check this out. Next up, it's Batman, the Black Case Book. These are a bunch of stories collected from Batman's golden age, and these stories are the inspiration behind Grant Morrison's Batman run, which starts with Batman R.I.P. Yes, Batman R.I.P. In Batman R.I.P., I believe Batman dies, and everyone is left devastated, and everyone wanted to replace him. So begins between all of the members of Bat Family who want to become Batman's replacement, and it is such a good comic. I believe the art is amazing. Everything is amazing in this one. Next up, we have Batman Reborn, Batman Long Shadows. So Batman is back and better than ever, stronger than ever. This is written by Jude Winnick. Batman, Streets of Gotham, Hush Money by Paul Dini. Again, the continuation of the story, Batman Reborn. Next up is Batwoman, Elegy. And in Elegy, Batwoman comes face to face with her own villains, and it's such a great story for this character. Next up, we have Batman, Life After Death by Tony Daniel. And this is a great story, especially because of the art. Next up, we have Batman and Robin by Grant Morrison. So finally, Batman is reborn in this one, and it is a really good comic. I absolutely love this one. It feels like a classic. Next up, we have Batman, Time and the Batman by Grant Morrison. Again, the continuation of Grant Morrison's run. Next up, Batman, The Return of Bruce Wayne by Grant Morrison. Finally, Bruce Wayne comes back in this one. And it has been such a wild ride until you get to this one, so it is definitely worth reading Grant Morrison's run on this one. Next up, we have Batgirl, Stephanie Brown. This is the Stephanie Brown comic that I absolutely love because of the art, and the story is also really good. And you should definitely check it out if you like Stephanie Brown as Batgirl. Next up, we have Batman, Bruce Wayne, The Road Home, and again, this is a continuation. In this story, Vicky Vale, the reporter, is trying to reveal Batman's true identity to everyone around the world. So yeah, Batman must stop her at all costs. Next up, we have Batman Incorporated by Grant Morrison. Again, this is a continuation of Grant Morrison's run, and it is a really good one. Essentially, Batman creates a corporation that trains individuals to become Batman of their home country. So yeah, this is an amazing story. The premise is absolutely amazing. Next up, we have Batman, Gates of Gotham. It is written by Scott Snyder, and this story is really good. I absolutely love the art. Next up, Batman, Night Out. Written by Chuck Dixon. This comic is a collection of stories of Batman and his allies, which must face against some of his best villains ever, and that is why it is such an enjoyable read. And I definitely recommend this one. Next up, we have Batman, Eye of the Beholder by Tony S. Daniel. As you can see, the art is also really amazing. Next up, we have Batman Black Mirror by Scott Snyder and Jock. The art is absolutely amazing. The story is top tier. It is one of the best Batman stories ever told. In this story, Dick Grayson becomes Batman, and this is such a classic comic. I absolutely love this one. Next up, we have Batman and Robin by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. This story is really good because it focuses on the aspect of their relationships, which wasn't focused after the events of Batman and the Sun. That is why I absolutely love this one. You should definitely check it out if you want more of Damian Wayne as Batman's Robin, and their father and son relationship is absolutely amazing in this one. You should definitely check it out. Next up, it's Batman by Brian K. Vaughan. This story focuses on Batman and his fight against Clayface, which is a very underrated villain, underused villain, is the main villain of this story. That is why it's such a good read. Clayface stories are really well written because it's a character that has the essence of a good character. That is why the stories that he's in is absolutely amazing. Next up, we have Batman, Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader. It is like a what if story. In different aspects, it seems like whatever happened to Man of Tomorrow, which is one of the best Superman stories ever written. This story is in the same vein as that. That is why it is such a good good comic to read at the end of the pre-Flashpoint era, post-Crisis era. I definitely recommend reading this one. It's a what of a story that is really amazing with such amazing twists. So you should definitely check this one out. So guys, we are at the end of this video. Thank you for watching this video. This was part 1 of Batman Chronological Reading Order, and I will be releasing part 2 very soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more comic and manga related content. And see you in the next video.